excited to have David Cohen, Chief Sales Officer at HubSpot, joining us this year. HubSpot's a leading customer platform that helps businesses grow better by connecting marketing, sales, service, and operations on a single platform. David brings a remarkable track record of scaling global revenue organizations, including helping lead LinkedIn through its hyper-growth years, IPO, and acquisition by Microsoft. Today at HubSpot, he focuses on building world-class sales leadership teams and driving growth for one of the most influential companies in the SaaS ecosystem. He's going to be interviewed by Brendan Walsh, co-founder and chief revenue officer at Street. Street is a HubSpot elite solutions partner that helps scaling B2B companies accelerate growth through revenue operations, CRM strategy, and demand generation. Brendan co-founded the consultancy in 2011 and has spent more than 15 years working across sales, marketing, and advertising. He leads Street's strategic relationships with HubSpot and focuses on helping enterprise and mid-market clients build high-performing revenue engines. Outside of work, Brendan's an equestrian polo enthusiastic and avid world traveler. I've learned so much from getting to know Brendan. I'm really excited about this conversation. Brendan, I'm going to hand you the microphone and turn it over to you.
Really happy and proud to be here. This is our first year at Digital Deep Dive, and very impressed with the crowd, very impressed with the conversations that we had during lunch, and appreciate David and the team from Winding River for having us. This is an awesome group of people, and excited for the rest of the day. David, aka DC, as those that know you well.
They do.
How long was the Uber ride over? 30 minutes?
It was less than 30 minutes. I want to just say thank you all for bringing this conference so close to where I live. It was really, really thoughtful. I live about a half hour away from here. And yeah, it was a really easy commute.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you making the time for us. I know it's a busy moment in the HubSpot universe,
Yes, always.
as it always is.
Always.
We have a couple questions that we've chatted through in advance, and wanted to really start with AI. It's all the rage right now. A lot of buzz. We see it as an AI inflection point. That's what we're kind of going under right now. And from your vantage point across industries, and you've seen it from the SaaS side, you've seen it from the consulting side, how has AI already operationally changed sales and marketing? Not just theoretically or what's to come, but what have you seen first and foremost that's already begun to change?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with a little bit about my background. So I'm going to date myself slightly, but when I graduated from college, I went to work for a company at the time that was known as Anderson Consulting. They're now known as Accenture. And I did CRM implementations back in the late 90s. So I did I think at the time it was the largest Siebel implementation. Some of you may have heard of Siebel. What was really amazing about that implementation, it was for Marriott International, was that the CRM at the time was able to take data that was in the system and then transfer it over to a Word document in Microsoft and generate a contract. Mind-blowing stuff. That was like cutting edge technology at the time. And then Salesforce comes around, and moves everything to the cloud, and you move away from client server. And then I joined LinkedIn in 2008, and that was kind of the dawn of Web 2.0 social media. And so much of the internet's content was like moving away from company websites and onto like individual platforms. So the content was being generated by the user as opposed to the corporation, and that was the big shift under Web 2.0. And the reason why I joined HubSpot was because I saw yet another shift that was taking place, and that around AI. And it comes back to the same idea of data still remains super important, and having kind of a confined system of data allows you to do things that are different. So in the case of like LinkedIn, we had an incredible amount of data that could be used to help inform decision making, whether it was a salesperson and trying to help them understand, who should they reach out to, or getting the right marketing content in front of the right customer through like a marketing solution. Or in the case of talent, how do you feed the right job profile to the right recruiter or the right candidate at the right time so that you can make that transaction happen? And so now we're seeing kind of that next level, which is taking place, which is just being able to take advantage of having the right data set that you can build on top of that can automate all the various processes that you want to automate. So I'm really excited about what's going on right now. We're seeing a huge shift internally in terms of our usage of AI, and I'm seeing it with our customers as well.
What surprised you the most about how quickly teams began to adopt AI, and how did that cascade throughout, let's say, HubSpot, through the organization?
Yeah, I've only been with the company for about a year, but if you look back at HubSpot, from probably 2 years ago, I think AI adoption, Yamini, who's our CEO, she pushed really hard. She said, I see it happening. This transformation is taking place. Everyone needs to just start using AI. And I don't even care what you're using. And this is going back to 2024. And so by the end of 2024, roughly 50% of the company was using some version of AI, whether it was homegrown or external, in the neighborhood of like weekly or monthly. It's about 50% usage. By the end of last year, it's 90% weekly average usage, and that's across 23 different AI tools. Some of those are internal, some of those are external. So it's been a massive shift, and the expectation is that we're all going to become much more adept at using these tools, not for the sake of using AI, but to make ourselves 10x more productive than we were before. So you look at our engineering team, for example. Engineering develops about 150,000 lines of code per week. 2 years ago, half of that code was developed by AI. Now, 95% of that code is written by AI. So it's a huge, huge pivot.
What do you think it'll be in 24 months?
I think that what's happening right now with every role that I'm seeing is that the people who are trying to figure out, the people who are embedding AI into their workflow and orchestrating are the ones who are actually winning. They are becoming much more productive. And those who are still kind of like leaning back with their heels dug in and saying like, AI is scary, it's dangerous, it's not happening, which I know is nobody in this room, they're having a hard time kind of understanding like how to take advantage of it. And we're noticing it in terms of productivity. I mentioned engineering, but if you look at the sales team, which is what I lead, our salespeople who are using AI on a daily basis, they have up to 10% better close rates. They are sending out far more, emails. They're making far more calls, and the response rates are far better than those for the people who aren't using them. Why is that? Because they're tailored very specifically to the person that they're intended to reach. And so, I've seen like over just the last few months, my sales team has generated something in the order of 40 to 50,000 more emails than they would have. But you would think, oh, we're just a spam factory. In fact, the open rate and the response rate is 2x better for the emails that are built by AI than those that are not built by AI. So it's a huge transformation, and I'm seeing the same with our customers all over the world.
Impressive. When we think about the future of growth, again, another topical theme right now is SEO and this transition to AEO, and specifically around websites. How has HubSpot adapted? Being known for basically inventing the term inbound marketing and having that be such a core piece of your go-to-market and lead generation. How have you seen that begun to take shape?
Yeah, I think you have to take a step back and kind of look what's happening across the industry right now, which is fascinating. Over the last year, search results on Google are down, 35%, meaning that people are not clicking the blue links that they used to click a year ago at the same rate that they have been before. And so everybody kind of looked at the world and they said, oh, Google's going to die. Everything's moving to ChatGPT and like the world is over now. The truth is that like if you do a Google search, Google is still the #1 AI generated respondent, even more than ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Claude combined. And so what's happening is I think there's a bifurcation of what's taking place. You've got Google on one side, which is still delivering tremendous search results, and it's AI powered now. So the first thing that everybody sees when they do a Google search is the AI results. At the same time, when you do a Google search, the average number of words that people enter into Google is 3.6 words. The average number of words that somebody enters into ChatGPT is 23, which means that the search is very different depending on which platform you're on. So if you're on Google, you might just be looking for basic information, even though you're going to see an AI-driven result. If you're on ChatGPT, and in February of this year, so just the close of February, ChatGPT had 900 million unique weekly users. 900 million. They're coming up with search results that are far, far more specific because the queries are much more detailed. 23 words versus 3.6 words. And so what that's meant for like a lot of marketers is that what you're seeing from SEO is a little bit of a shift, and it's not as productive as it once was. What you're seeing from AEO is that there are fewer searches. It's not as much as a Google, but the quality of those searches is astronomically better. The click-through rates on those searches, the conversion rates that not only HubSpot is seeing, but our customers are seeing, is a 3x increase versus what we've seen on Google in the past. And so as a result of that, it just changes the way that you have to think about the two different types of platforms and how you respond to them. We've lost no leads in the process. No, I should say no like qualified SQLs. But our top of funnel traffic is way, way, way down. So we've just kind of shifted the profile a little bit. Doesn't mean that we've abandoned SEO. It just means that we've taken advantage of AEO. Again, I'm seeing customers that are doing incredible things with it right now, and that shift is only accelerating.
And in this AI-driven search world, how does that change the position of the website as a growth engine, as a lead generation? I know you and Yamini have spoken at length about the future of websites and how important they are, or will be rather, during an era where people have asked, are websites even going to matter anymore?
Totally. It's one of the most interesting and like kind of counterintuitive things about what's taking place right now. So the big question that everybody's asking is, as we're having this shift that's moving over to AEO, how do you actually inform the AEO? How do you show up in the results when somebody says, I'm looking for a firm that specializes in supply chain or in logistics? How do I show up? How does my firm show up when somebody does that search? And the answer is you actually have to train it. And where does ChatGPT get trained? Where does Claude get trained? It gets trained by websites, verifiable websites that are often cited by other websites. And so how do you build those things? You're literally building, you're responsible now for building a content engine that allows all of the right search strings to focus on your firm. And that's not something that can be done manually. That takes, basically AI, building the AI that informs the right content so that those search results show up in the way that you want them to. There are a lot of tricks that we've figured out. We've been on the kind of front end of this shift, and being able to take advantage of technology that can allow you to basically build an unlimited number of website pages that are training the AEOs to be able to deliver your firm when the right search, when the right query is entered. That's the game right now. That's what we're seeing. So I think short answer to the question is it matters more than it's ever mattered before, but in a surprising way, because it's not as though people are going directly to your website anymore. It's that the AEOs or the AI websites, the LLMs, that's what's searching on your website, and it's looking to satisfy the queries.
It's something we've seen on our side too. It's folks are reaching out less on a research and discovery phase. They're coming to us and they're saying, hey, would you be willing to submit to this RFP, or we're ready to book a call or something like that? I imagine it's the same at HubSpot.
Totally. Yeah. How are companies finding you right now? How do the firms find you?
Well, we do a fair amount of events. We did 27 events last year, speaking, things like this. We also are doing, typical demand generation, paid ads, content, and do a fair amount of webinars.
Yeah. It is not easy to be an elite partner at HubSpot. There are 7,000 partners of HubSpot, and Wall Street does an amazing job. So, I think kudos to you for kind of walking the walk and knowing how to get it done.
I appreciate that. When we think about operationally, like how AI is going to be changing growth teams, thinking about this growth team of the future, something David and I chatted with you about earlier, it's changing the way sales teams operate, marketing teams operate. What have you seen operationally down the line that members of your team and how they're adopting AI and where they're seeing the most value in AI?
Yeah, I was having a conversation, I mentioned to Brendan earlier, I was having a conversation this morning with a company called Lovable. Lovable's the fastest growing tech company in Europe right now, or ever, I think. And they're on HubSpot, proud to say, even though they could build any CRM, they can do anything they want. They're a vibe-coded platform. But they go with HubSpot. And I was talking to their chief revenue officer who said that 80% of his sales reps' time has to be focused on customer conversations. Meeting with customers, having conversations with customers. They don't do forecast calls. They don't do cold outreach. They leave all of that stuff to automation. And so what's actually happening is, the outreach process, the prospecting world, that's all fully automated right now until they get a warm lead. That's served up to a sales rep who is prepped with AI, with an AI-based transaction. Then the rep gets on a call with a customer or with a prospect. There's an automated note taker that's listening to the conversation, that's trying to figure out in real time, is this a good lead? Is this a bad lead? Are you losing this person in mid-conversation? Do you need to change the approach that you're taking? Did you ask a good question? Did you ask a follow-up in the right way? And then when the call's over, the entire transcript goes directly into the CRM. It's updated based on the quality of the conversation so that it can automatically forecast for the manager to know how far progressed is this lead or this opportunity. And then follow-up notes are automatically sent through email by the same note taker that has been listening to the conversation and then referring back to every other customer conversation that's ever taken place across the company. So you think about all right, wow, what just happened? What they've done is they've done something really phenomenal, but it's actually quite simple. They re-architected the entire sales process, not to layer AI on top for the sake of AI, but starting with what is the engine that they want to have? What do they want to accomplish with it? And what they decided was, I want 80% of my customer-facing team's time focused on customer conversations. If it dips below that level, then they're doing too much administrative work. If it goes above that level, I need a bigger team. And that's the trigger point when they hire the next person, is when it starts to drive above 80%. I thought that was just such a fascinating example of what's taking place right now. And the same idea applies to marketers. The same idea, I would believe, applies to partners, where all of the administrative stuff, all the back office work, all of that can be automated right now so that we can spend all of our time talking to our customers, which is what we should be doing.
It makes total sense. And you're right, it is fascinating. How has that changed how you hire and what skills matter in the future AI-driven world on a growth team?
This is such an interesting question. And I think it's one that a lot of companies right now are really battling with, is what is the future of talent? One person's opinion, but I think we have enough data in order to support it. The folks that are building out the workflows, that are managing the workflows that the AI is doing, seem to be getting that 10x return on their time. The ones that are kind of avoiding it, or they're still having a hard time adopting the tools that are taking the administrative work off of their plates, and the folks that are not basically able to tell the agents, this is what I want you to do, this is the work that I want you to do, and I'm going to check your work, and I'm going to make you better at your work, etc. I think that's where the dinosaurs are going to come from. When you think about where jobs are going, it's now an old expression, it's probably a year old. Your job isn't going to be replaced by AI, it's going to be replaced by someone who uses AI better than you do. it's absolutely becoming reality right now. And so that's really what I think we're seeing. It's, those who can, they can design the work, they can orchestrate the work, and then let the AI tools do what they need to do. That is the role of the future.
That makes sense. When we talk about data and automation, one thing we're hearing, and something I'm sure that the folks in attendance today have dealt with, is disconnected systems, messy data. How does that position HubSpot from a value proposition as what calling the customer platform of record?
Yeah.
What do you see there in how to describe the value that a HubSpot can provide?
Yeah, what we're seeing really, right out of the gate, is the disconnected and disparate data systems are creating problems. They're creating a lot of problems for customers and for companies that don't have a unified data platform, especially front office customer data. And the reason for that is, I'll give you a very specific example. I was talking to a customer the other day. They are both on HubSpot for part of their customer-facing platform and their front office platform, and then they're on other systems for other things. But the data system is not connected. The data layer is disparate. And so they launched a customer agent, and the customer agent's job was to just handle customer support calls and like emails, chatbot, that sort of thing. What they found very quickly was that when the customer agent couldn't find the right answer within the knowledge base, what it did was it searched their website and then gave that answer to the customer. So what does that mean? It means that basically the customer agent took like a very normal, customer support call, and it couldn't get the right answer. So instead of asking the knowledge base associated with customer support, it asked the marketing knowledge base. Marketing and customer support have very different responsibilities, right? We know that to be true. And so when you're serving basically like a top of funnel sales message into somebody who's just looking for a support answer, you are exacerbating a very frustrated customer problem, right? So that was like a really interesting insight. And what does that mean? It means that basically like building out the knowledge base and using all of the knowledge that comes from every customer interaction and all of the customer data in a single repository, and training the customer agent on that and letting it get better and better over time is what's going to deliver much better answers and much more satisfied customers. I think it's like an example of why it's important to have one unified database, one unified knowledge base.
Yeah, makes sense. Something that we preach a lot too. When we talk about specifically related to accounting professionals, because that industry is obviously very compliance driven, it's risk averse. You're dealing with sensitive proprietary information. What would you consider like low-hanging fruit that growth leaders within the accounting world can begin to adopt and dip their toe in if they're new to AI, if it hasn't become truly like a big part of their business development / marketing function?
Yeah, I think we learned a lot in 2025 where we were just kind of testing different ways of using AI and kind of making things work together. And some of the things that we learned were that there is no, you don't get it right on the first try, especially when it comes to deploying agents. The agents do need to be trained over time. So what does that mean? In a regulated industry or in an industry where you have to be really, really careful that information isn't sent haphazardly, having a controlled environment where you can kind of test to see, hey, does this use case actually hallucinate? Under what conditions is it going to hallucinate? How do we train it to get better and better and better responses? Starting now is probably the most important thing that you can do, because what we're seeing is that firms that are on they're doing the right testing, they're getting ahead of things, they're training the agents and they're training the knowledge bases to become more intelligent and more effective over time. And so the way that tends to play out is in the early days, I think like a year ago, we were seeing success rates or deflection rates with, support agents and that sort of thing of somewhere in the neighborhood of 30, 40, 50%. That was like industry leading. Now we're seeing them at 70, 75, 80, and even 85% deflection rates. And that's not accidental. That's not because the technology has gotten better, although that's part of the reason. But it's really that like there is this training process that takes a little time in order to get there. And so whether it's, customer support, whether it's partner outreach, whether it is, it's follow-up, whether it's the front office or back office kind of workflows, being able to develop over time the means to be able to deploy those things and get better and better results starts now. So earlier is better, controlled environment is better, make sure you don't let the agents go haywire on day one. Getting there over time, really, it's important to start quickly.
And would that be the same advice if you're giving growth leaders in the accounting space advice on how to stay competitive with AI? Is that fall into the same vein?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if I'm thinking about growth, what's changing right now is there are an abundant number of outreach. There's so much outreach that's happening right now. I'm sure all of you are like me. I get probably 100 cold messages a day. I open almost none of them. I think the same is true, if you're trying to reach out. The question is, how do you break through all that noise? How do you grow? What's the best way of getting the attention of a prospective client or an existing client when it comes to cross-sell? I think making sure that everything is super tailored to the person. AI can simply just do it better than human beings can do it, and it can do it much more efficiently. And so when I'm thinking about growth, I'm thinking about how do I make a much more intelligent agent and put it out there, whether it's cold outreach outbound or whether it's warm to an existing customer. Hey, we're already having a conversation about one service that we offer. Does the AI recognize that there are other solutions out there? There are other services that we can offer? And how is it serving them up? Especially in large and distributed firms where one team doesn't necessarily know about all of the solutions that the other team is able to offer. And if the conversations don't kind of cross paths, then there's opportunities for cross-sell that are missed. And so the more and more that we can kind of unify the data, train the AIs, make sure that everybody's getting access to all those tools and installing them in the workflows themselves, I think that's where there's real opportunity.
Yes, totally aligned. And I think something that the industry has struggled with by and large is also adoption. So even when a firm does have HubSpot, you have a lot of folks who just aren't bought in yet, aren't willing to use the system. Maybe it's younger members of the team who are more adept and feel more confident with it, and older members aren't as confident with it. What we've seen is folks that saying, "Hey, look, we're not giving you a customer number if the deal is not in HubSpot. If it's not, if I don't see the contact records filled out, if the deal list is not calibrated, et cetera." So it's as much change management and adoption as it is anything else.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And the old rule in all of sales, in tech sales, is if it's not in the CRM, it didn't happen. And so we hold our teams accountable to, it's a compliance thing, but why do we do it? Because we want all of that data. We want all of the customer conversations to be in one place. Because if it's not there, how do we take advantage of it as an enterprise?
Absolutely. Well, DC, thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure.